All right, let's get straight into my panel. One Nation's New South Wales leader Mark Latham joins us from Sydney. And of course, Rowan Dean, Outsiders host and editor of The Spectator. I'm going to go straight to you, Rowan. This issue of Melbourne and the lockdown, stage 4, being stage 4 for 11 weeks, about to go into 12 weeks. Looking at the case numbers, there's a great concern today that stage 4 will not be lifted on October 19. This is extraordinary.
It's worse than extraordinary. It's dangerous. It's endangering lives. Before I just mention that, can I just first say, Peter, what a terrific grilling you gave Dan Andrews today, and I imagine he'll next turn up with black marks all across him from the grilling you gave him. Well deserved as well. Lockdowns. There's something called the Great Barrington Declaration, which has been signed in the last 24 hours by a number of prominent epidemiologists and others from around the world, one of whom will be on Outsiders on Sunday. And they are saying that lockdowns actually cause, a great deal of harm. People die because of lockdowns. There's all sorts of health reasons why that is, apart from the obvious ones of depression and suicide. But there's also other and people not taking the correct or seeking the correct medical interventions early enough for other life-threatening illnesses. So these lockdowns are not just something you just switch on and off. They are dangerous. They are deadly. People will die, and those responsible for causing these lockdowns or putting them into place, in my opinion, stand guilty of all sorts of crimes, not least of which in Melbourne, under Dan Andrews' own manslaughter, industrial manslaughter laws introduced into the Victorian Parliament last year. I would argue anyone responsible for putting these lockdowns into place is guilty of manslaughter laws, crimes which can see 25 years in jail. And I think it's that serious, and I think the federal government has a duty now to step in and say this madness has to stop. All around the world, there is plenty of evidence that lockdowns either don't work or are counterproductive, and there's certainly no evidence around the world that lockdowns are necessary.
Mike, I've got to go to you, and you're one of the few people that are out there publicly have worked on the inside of politics. Do you believe that a police commissioner in a 6-minute period can go from being exercised, that his officers would be tied up manning hotel quarantine, to being absolutely comfortable, indeed telling a federal counterpart, don't worry, mate, we're not doing it, special deal cooked up with our Department of Premier and Cabinet, it won't be us, it'll be private security, that a decision can happen in that 6-minute period and it could come from everyone else but the Premier or the Premier's office, that indeed it's a creeping assumption?
Well, it beggars belief that Daniel Andrews wasn't involved in the decision that he announced a day later. He stood up in front of the media and said, I'm announcing the role of private security in hotel quarantine, which turned out to be one of the greatest disasters in the history of public administration in this country. So the police commissioner would have got instructions from someone, most likely the Premier's office. We should see the phone log of the Premier and the head of his department, as you were magnificently pointing out today at the press conference, Peter. We saw Andrews turn beetroot red with embarrassment and humiliation, and so he should, because he's an habitual liar, he's covered up, he knows the truth of this because he announced it, and for a Premier to say, I don't know where the decision came from, told me to announce it, I went out there like a ventriloquist doll and just spoke the words, is one of the great deceptions in the history of Australian politics. So this bloke should resign. He's a disgrace to his party, he's a disgrace to his state, he's a disgrace to our country and anyone who's got a shred of honesty and ethics in their body. And the work you've done, forensic work, Peter, and getting to the bottom of this, there's further steps to go. But Andrews, to me, looks like he's on the 9 count. And when they get to 10, chuck him out of the ring.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. I mean, even the information tonight that I put out very, very clearly that in that 6-minute period, Rowan, that there was messages from the Premier's private office. Now, the name of that staffer has been redacted in evidence. And when it was put to the Premier, it was glossed over very, very quickly. But I think to be kind to counsel assisting, although others may say that counsel assisting didn't do their job well enough, but to be kind to counsel assisting, I don't think people had cottoned on to how important this 6-minute window was. But clearly, here's a message from the Premier's own office inside this period. And we know, and I just want to correct something Mark said, it wasn't the day after that the Premier announced a private quarantine would be used in Victoria. It was only about an hour and a half after these series of text messages. So Rowan, this is a great cover-up, isn't it?
Well, it's Monty Python, it's Yes Minister, it's all of those sort of great comedy sketches that you think this is so absurd that it could never possibly happen in reality, but it has happened. Remember, we first of all had, oh, nobody knows who made the decision. I can't recall, one after the other. I don't know. Who knows? Did you make the decision? Did you make it? I don't know. Someone made the decision. And then magically the decision just happened all by itself with nobody responsible for it. And as Mark says, well done, Peter, for your getting down to the nub of the matter. And if there's 6 minutes, that 6 minutes needs to be cleared up. And for Dan Andrews, and I build on what Mark is saying, Dan Andrews has to be, if the modern art of politics is dissembling and obfuscation and using the system to kind of remove any blame from yourself, well, Dan Andrews stands as one of the great politicians of our time. And I don't mean that as a compliment. I mean it as the complete opposite. We've got this ludicrous, absurd Alice in Wonderland situation where the bloke clearly knows what has happened, is making up all this stuff without procedure to allow him not to answer the questions. Keep going, Peter. Great work.
I've got to go to you quickly, Mark. Anthony Albanese's address in reply, a lot of spending, but we've had a week of spending. Do you think this will turn around his fortunes because he's really struggled in the polls?
Well, no, he's only appealing to the Marrickville Labor base, inner city Sydney there, where he's got a ridiculous $20 billion expenditure, hooking renewables up to the grid, just exploding the myth that renewables are cheap. There's a $20 billion price tag right there. He's appealing to the left-wing feminists who've deceived him in saying that women are far more disadvantaged in the recession than men when women are in industries like public service, teachers, nurses, lawyers, GP, doctors, vets, office managers, where jobs are absolutely 100% secure. And it's a strange Anthony Albanese and a strange Labor Party today, a party founded by working men where they've got a leader who seems to go out of his way not to mention working men at all and wants to divide the labour market into two, women versus men. And that's his political pitch, and it might play well in Marrickville, but Albo, you're sunk, mate, in the outer suburbs and the regions where you're just another green left inner city elite way out of touch.
All right, gentlemen, I have to leave it there. I'm sorry to do this to you. Rowan Dean, watch you on Sunday. Mark Latham, thank you as always.
Thanks, Peter.
You spoke our mind. Thanks, Peter, and so did you. Good on you.